when most people think about dinosaurs, they imagine monsters. But what's hard to understand is just how different their world really was. Some dinosaurs were smaller than a chicken, light enough to move through branches and small enough to disappear beneath your footstep. Others could look you directly in the eyes, hunt in groups, and move faster than most animals alive today. But even those predators were nothing compared to the true giants. Today, we're traveling through the dinosaur age to see just how massive and how small dinosaurs really were. Our journey starts with a dinosaur so small, most people would walk right past it. This is Anchiornis, a crow-sized feathered dinosaur that lived around 160 million years ago. It wasn't towering over anything. It wasn't shaking the ground. It was light, fragile, and covered in feathers. Beside a human boot, Anchiornis almost looks like a lost pet instead of a dinosaur. But this tiny animal is one of the clearest reminders that dinosaurs were not just giant reptiles. Some were already moving towards the world of birds. It likely used its feathered limbs to move between trees, gliding through ancient forests while hunting insects and small prey. So, this dinosaur story doesn't begin with a roar. It begins with something small enough to fit beneath the shadow of your hand. But dinosaurs wouldn't stay small for long. The next dinosaur is famous, but almost everyone imagines it wrong.
They need more than space. They need something to chase.
Real Velociraptor was not the human-sized monster from movies. It was closer to the size of a large turkey. But even at this smaller size, it was clearly a dinosaur built for danger. It lived in what is now Mongolia, moving through dry ancient landscapes as a fast, feathered predator. So Velociraptor was not huge, but it proves that size was not the only thing that made dinosaurs terrifying. Yet millions of years earlier, some theropod predators were evolving into something far larger and far more unsettling. Dilophosaurus lived nearly 193 million years ago, during the early Jurassic, making it one of the earliest large predators to dominate North America. And unlike the tiny movie version many people remember, the real animal was enormous. At over 20 feet long and standing nearly as tall as a modern pickup truck, Dilophosaurus would have towered above most people. Its body was lean and athletic, built for speed rather than brute force. But the most recognizable feature was the pair of thin crests rising from its skull, structures that may have been used for display, recognition, or intimidation. And no, Dilophosaurus did not have a frill. That was only in the movies. Standing beside one, it feels less like a modern predator, and more like something ancient that should not exist anymore. And this was still only the beginning, because as dinosaurs spread across the planet, they didn't just get bigger, they got stranger. At first, Stegosaurus doesn't look real. Its back rises into a row of huge plates, and behind it swings a tail armed with spikes almost as tall as a person. This animal lived in the late Jurassic, and it was one of the strangest giant herbivores ever discovered. Compared to everything we've seen so far, Stegosaurus feels like a different category of dinosaur entirely. It ate plants, moved heavily through forests and floodplains, and likely relied on those tail spikes to defend itself from predators. The plates may have helped with display, recognition, or heat regulation, but visually, they turned Stegosaurus into one of the most recognizable animals in Earth history. But even Stegosaurus was only the beginning of giant herbivores. The next dinosaur brings scale in a different way, not through spikes or teeth, but through sound, movement, and herds. Parasaurolophus was a large-crested herbivore from late Cretaceous North America. Beside a person, its body rises taller than an SUV, and its long crest reaches high above human height. But the crest wasn't just for looks. Scientists think it may have helped produce deep calls that traveled through forests and wetlands. This is where dinosaurs stop feeling like individual monsters and start feeling like living communities. Parasaurolophus could move on 2 legs or drop to all 4s, shifting between speed and stability depending on the moment. In the zoo corridor, it feels graceful. But in the wild, a whole herd moving together would have been overwhelming. And then came one of the most heavily armed animals in history. Before you see the full animal, you see the horns. Triceratops was not just a plant eater, it was a living prehistoric tank. It lived at the very end of the Cretaceous in North America, sharing the world with Tyrannosaurus Rex. The skull alone was enormous, with 3 horns, a massive frill, and a face built for defense. Some Triceratops may have weighed over 10 tons, putting it far beyond any rhino alive today. And when a herd formed around its young, this wasn't just a group of herbivores. It was a wall of horns. This is the point where dinosaur size becomes more than impressive. It becomes hard to imagine surviving near them. But even Triceratops lived in fear of something larger. You usually hear T-Rex before you see it. First come the footsteps. Then the skull appears through the dark. With legs rising over 13 feet from the ground and a body mass approaching 10 tons, Tyrannosaurus Rex stood among the largest predators in Earth's history, ruling late Cretaceous North America at the top of the food chain. Standing beside its leg, a human looks small. Standing beneath its skull, you understand why this animal became the symbol of prehistoric power. Its head was larger than a human torso, packed with teeth the size of knives. But T-Rex wasn't just large, it was built to crush. Its bite force was among the strongest known from any land animal, powerful enough to break bone and tear through prey that most predators could never handle. And with strong senses, forward-facing eyes and a massive body, it was not just chasing the dinosaur world, it was ruling it. Inside the zoo, reinforced glass makes it feel controlled. But in its own world, there was no glass. For millions of years, this was one of the most feared animals on land. And in modern culture, it dominated an entire era on the big screen. Branded as king of the dinosaurs, T-Rex became the symbol of prehistoric power. A predator so dominant, it ruled for millions of years. But dinosaur history stretches across time spans that are almost impossible to imagine. Because nearly 30 million years before T-Rex, another apex predator was already rising through the fog. Not a king of forests, a hunter shaped by rivers, mud, and water. Spinosaurus doesn't enter like a normal predator. First, the sail rises through the fog. Then the long crocodile-like skull appears, built for a very different kind of hunting. Spinosaurus was one of the longest carnivorous dinosaurs ever discovered. And unlike T-Rex, it was tied closely to water. It lived in North Africa during the Cretaceous, in a world of rivers, fish, large prey, and massive predators competing along the water's edge. Beside a person, the sail alone towers overhead. And underwater, the animal becomes even stranger. Instead of just chasing large prey across land, Spinosaurus likely hunted fish and moved through river systems like a prehistoric river monster. This is what makes dinosaur size so strange. Some giants were built for open land, others were shaped by water, mud, and current. And yet even these apex predators were nothing compared to the true giants. Before we reach the largest dinosaurs of all, there's one more giant predator. Giganotosaurus lived in South America. It rivaled T-Rex in size. It was massive, but built differently. More stretched out, with a long skull and a body made for covering open ground. Beside its jaws, a human looks completely outmatched. Where T-Rex is often imagined as a crushing powerhouse, Giganotosaurus may have been more of a slashing predator. Using its size and jaws to bring down enormous prey. And that detail matters, because in South America, predators like this shared the land with animals so huge that even a giant carnivore looks small. Because the largest dinosaur wasn't a predator. This is where the scale stops feeling normal. At first, you don't see the whole animal. You see a foot, then a leg, then a chest, then the neck disappears above the trees. This is Argentinosaurus, a giant titanosaur from Cretaceous South America, and one of the largest land animals ever discovered. Some estimates place it at over 100 feet long, with a weight that may have reached 70 tons or more. That means a single dinosaur could weigh more than an entire herd of modern elephants. Standing beneath it, the animal doesn't feel like a creature anymore. It feels like terrain. Its footsteps would have carried through the ground. Its body would have blocked the sun. Its neck could rise above the forest canopy. And if these animals moved in herds, the effect would have been almost impossible to imagine. Not one giant, not one shadow, but an entire moving wall of life crossing the landscape. This is the final scale of the dinosaur world. Not just bigger than us, not just bigger than modern animals, but bigger than anything the modern land world has ever seen. So when we ask how big dinosaurs really were, the answer is not just measured in feet or tons. It's measured in how small it makes our world feel today.